My name is David Carter. Grief doesn't arrive like a storm. It doesn't kick the door in and announce itself. It seeps, quiet, patient, like water finding cracks in concrete, freezing, expanding, splitting everything apart from the inside. When my wife died, the house didn't feel empty. It felt paused, like time itself had hesitated, like she had just stepped out for groceries and would be back any minute, keys jingling, that tired smile on her face, the one she gave when the day had taken too much out of her, but she still chose us anyway. I kept everything the same routines, same bills paid before they were due, same groceries, even the ones she used to buy but no one really touched anymore. I left her mug in the same place for weeks, maybe longer. I stopped counting time properly after the funeral, because I believed something simple. If I kept things stable, nothing would fall apart. I was wrong. Logan didn't break. He shifted. That was worse. If he had screamed, if he had rebelled, if he had shattered something, I could have understood it. I could have met him there in that chaos. But he didn't. He got quiet, then distant, then cold. Started small. Always does. A delay before answering me. A shrug instead of words. Eyes that slid past me instead of meeting mine. The kind of silence that isn't empty, it's loaded. I told myself it was grief. I told myself he needed space. So I gave it to him. Too much of it. Because space, when given to the wrong person, becomes territory. And Logan started claiming it. Room by room. Conversation by conversation. Boundary by boundary. Then came Kylie. She didn't arrive like a problem. She arrived like a solution. Soft voice. Careful words. Always polite. Always watching. That's what I noticed first. She watched everything. Not like someone curious. Like someone studying. The layout of the house. The routines. Me. Especially me. I caught her looking at my office more than once. Not directly. Never obvious. Just enough to register. And disappear. Just getting water, she'd say. Or, Logan said I could use the Wi-Fi. Always a reason. Always prepared. And Logan? He changed faster with her around. Sharper. More confident. Like someone whispering in his ear. Reminding him of something he hadn't fully realized yet. Or maybe, something he had. The first real crack came at dinner. Not dramatic. Not loud. That's how you know it matters. We were sitting at the table. Same table I had paid off years ago. Same chairs. Same lighting. Same routine I had forced to stay alive long after its meaning had started to rot. 3 plates. 3 people. 1 silence. I asked him something simple. How's work going? He didn't answer. Not right away. He leaned back. Looked at Kylie. Just a glance. Quick. But it was there. A check. Permission. Alignment. Then he looked back at me. It's fine. Flat. Dismissive. Like I had asked something irrelevant. Kylie smiled. Not at me. At him. Small. Controlled. But it was there. That moment. It stayed with me. Because it wasn't about the answer. It was about the shift. I wasn't part of the conversation anymore. I was outside it. Observing something that used to include me. Still, I let it go. That's what I did best back then. Let things go. One by one. Like loosening screws in a structure I was still standing inside. Days passed. Then weeks. They started staying up late. Music louder than necessary. Laughter that didn't carry warmth. Just exclusion. Doors closed when I walked down the hall. Voices dropped when I entered rooms. And sometimes, silence fell so fast it felt rehearsed. I became something strange in my own home. Not a father. Not even a presence. A shadow. But shadows still pay the bills. And I paid everything. Mortgage. Utilities. Internet. Groceries. The electricity feeding their late nights. Mine. The food they barely acknowledged. Mine. The house they moved through like it belonged to them. Mine. And still, I said nothing. Because by then, I had started noticing things. Small inconsistencies. Details that didn't fit. My office door slightly ajar when I knew I had closed it. Papers shifted. Not missing, just moved. Drawers not aligned the way I left them. Subtle, careful, but not careful enough. Then came the questions. Logan started asking about the house. Casually. Too casually. How's ownership set up? What happens? Legally? If something happened to you, who gets what? He said it like curiosity. But it wasn't curiosity. It was mapping. And Kylie? She stopped pretending to avoid my office. Started using it. Openly. Hope that's okay, she'd say. Already sitting at my desk. Already plugged in. Already too comfortable. That's when something inside me shifted. Not emotionally. Logically. Because grief makes you slow. But suspicion sharpens everything. I stopped reacting. And I started preparing. Quietly. First, the money. Accounts they didn't know about, secured. Accounts they might know about, moved. Slow transfers. Small changes. Nothing sudden. Nothing that would trigger attention. Then legal structure. Ownership tightened. Documentation reviewed. Protections layered in ways they wouldn't even think to check. Then the house. Cameras. Not obvious. Not intrusive. Integrated. Silent. Watching. Living room. Hallway. Office. Audio in key areas. Not because I wanted to spy. Because I needed to know. Because by then, I understood something clearly. This wasn't grief. This was strategy. And I needed to see how far it went. The night everything broke felt ordinary. That's what makes it unforgettable. I came home like any other day. Keys in hand. Jacket still on. Mind somewhere between exhaustion and routine. Then I saw them. Logan standing in the hallway. Kylie just behind him. Arms crossed. Positioned. Like this had been discussed. Planned. Finalized. I didn't speak first. Neither did they. For a moment we just stood there. 3 people in a house that suddenly felt too small for all of us. Then Logan said it. You should leave. No build-up. No hesitation. Just clean. Cold. Final. I looked at him. Really looked. And whatever I had held onto, whatever image of him still existed in my head, it was gone. This isn't your house anymore, he added. Kylie didn't move. Didn't speak. But her eyes, they said everything. Agreement. Expectation. Control. And in that moment, everything aligned. The looks. The silence. The questions. The movement in my office. All of it. This wasn't sudden. This was built. Layer by layer. Right in front of me. I could have destroyed him right there. One sentence. One reminder of reality. This house. My name. My money. My rules. But I didn't. Because the truth? I had already won. They just didn't know it yet. I set my keys down. Slow. Deliberate. Looked him straight in the eyes. And nodded. All right. That word. Confused him. Just enough. Then he smiled. A small one. Satisfied. He thought I folded. He thought I broke. He thought this was the end. That's the problem with people who think they're smart. They only see the move in front of them. Not the board. I grabbed a bag. Not much. Nothing important. Because everything important was already gone. Or protected. Or waiting. I walked to the door. No shouting. No argument. No emotion. Just movement. Behind me I felt their relief. Their victory. Their assumption that the old man had given up. I stepped outside. Closed the door. And heard the lock click. From the inside. My house. Locked. Against me. I stood there for a moment. Then walked to my car. Sat down. Hands on the wheel. Breathing steady. Not broken. Not angry. Just certain. Because now, they would act. They would relax. They would show exactly who they were. When they believed no one was watching. And I would see everything. I started the engine. Drove away. And for the first time since my wife died, I wasn't holding anything together anymore. I was letting it collapse. Exactly the way I wanted. I didn't go far. That's the part people never understand. They think walking away means disappearing. Breaking. Starting over somewhere else like a man who lost everything. But I didn't lose anything. I relocated. There's a difference. I checked into a small apartment across town. Nothing impressive. Bare walls. Minimal furniture. A place that didn't ask questions. A place that didn't carry memories. A place where I could think. Because thinking was all that mattered now. Not reacting. Not confronting. Watching. Waiting. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps upstairs. No doors closing. No muffled laughter leaking through the walls like something I wasn't invited to. Just silence. But not empty silence. Controlled silence. I sat at the table with my laptop open. And I turned on the feed. The living room appeared first. Wide angle. Clean. Familiar. My couch. My television. My house. Occupied. Logan was already different. That didn't take long. He wasn't pacing. Wasn't tense. Wasn't grieving. He was relaxed. Comfortable. Like something heavy had just been removed from his life. Me. Kylie walked in behind him, barefoot, holding a drink. She didn't look around like a guest anymore. She moved like she belonged there. That was fast. Too fast. They sat together. Close. Quiet for a moment. Then she said it. So. That was easier than I thought. Logan laughed. Actually laughed. Yeah. I thought he'd put up more of a fight. I didn't move. Didn't react. Just listened. Because this was the truth finally speaking without restraint. No, Kylie said, leaning back. Guys like him don't fight. They just give up. Guys like him. I replayed that in my head once. Then let it go. Because the next part mattered more. So what now? Logan asked. Kylie didn't hesitate. Now we make sure he doesn't come back. Silence. Short. Heavy. Logan shifted slightly. What do you mean? She turned toward him. Serious now. Focused. I mean, we lock everything down. Change passwords. Check documents. Figure out what's in his name and what's not. There it was. Not grief. Not confusion. Execution. Logan hesitated. Not because it was wrong. Because it was new. I don't know all that stuff, he said. You don't need to, she replied. That's what I'm for. Confidence. Not assumed. Practiced. I leaned back in my chair. Exhaled slowly. Because at that moment, I stopped wondering. This wasn't his idea. Not entirely. He was the door. She was the plan. The next few days confirmed everything. They moved fast. Faster than I expected. Too fast for people improvising. They went through my office the next morning. No hesitation. Drawers opened. Files pulled. Documents spread across the desk like they had every right to touch them. Kylie handled most of it. Logan watched. Followed instructions. Asked questions. She answered everything. Confident. Precise. Like she had done this before. Or at least thought about it long enough to believe she had. Check for bank statements, she said. Anything with account numbers. Passwords might be written somewhere. I almost smiled at that. Almost. Because the version of me they were searching for didn't exist anymore. That man kept things simple. Predictable. Accessible. That man was gone. What they found instead. Noise. Old documents. Closed accounts. Irrelevant data. Enough to keep them digging. Not enough to give them anything real. And still, they kept going. Day after day. More confident. More careless. They stopped lowering their voices. Stopped pretending. The cameras caught everything. Conversations. Plans. Assumptions. Once we get access, Kylie said one night, sitting cross-legged on the floor with papers around her, we can transfer everything out. Logan nodded. And the house. She smiled. That same small, controlled smile. We'll figure it out. Worst case, we sell. Sell. My house. Their certainty wasn't just disrespect anymore. It was delusion backed by intent. And intent leaves evidence. That's what they didn't understand. Every login attempt, recorded. Every failed password entry, logged. Every conversation about accessing my accounts, captured. Every plan to move money that wasn't theirs, documented. They weren't just crossing a line. They were building a case against themselves. The parties started on the fourth night. That didn't surprise me. Control, once believed to be absolute, turns into celebration. Music, loud. Strangers in my house. People I had never seen walking through rooms I built. Drinking, laughing, opening cabinets like they owned the place. One of them even sat at my desk, my chair, feet up, talking about old money like it was something they had inherited. I watched it all, silent, still, patient, because this part mattered. Not the noise, not the damage, the comfort, the way Logan moved through it all. Hosting, smiling, like this was always his life, just delayed by my presence. Kylie stayed close to him, always guiding, always watching, always adjusting. If he hesitated, she corrected. If he doubted, she reassured. If he questioned, she answered. She wasn't reacting to the situation. She was shaping it. And Logan? He was becoming exactly what she needed him to be. That's when I understood the final piece. This wasn't just about the house or the money. It was about removal. Complete, clean, permanent. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me erased. Legally, financially, personally. And they believed they were close. That belief made them reckless. Careless with words. Careless with actions. Careless enough to say things like, once it's all transferred, he won't be able to do anything. By the time he realizes, it'll be too late. He's not coming back. That last one, Logan said it. Confident. Certain. He's not coming back. I leaned closer to the screen. Studied his face. No doubt. No hesitation. He believed it. That was important. Because traps don't close on suspicion. They close on certainty. And Logan was certain. Days passed. More attempts. More digging. More conversations. More evidence. Until finally, they said something they couldn't take back. They were in the living room. Late. No music. No distractions. Just the two of them. Kylie leaned forward. Serious. Focused. We should list the house soon. Logan blinked. That fast. She nodded. Before anything changes. Before anyone asks questions. And the money? She didn't hesitate. We split it. Split it. Like it was already theirs. Like I was already gone. Logan nodded slowly. Processing. Accepting. Then he said it. The sentence that ended everything. Yeah. It's ours anyway. Ours. Not his. Not shared with me. Erased. Rewritten. Claimed. I sat back. Closed my eyes for a moment. And exhaled. Because that was it. Not the beginning. Not the middle. The end. They had crossed from disrespect into theft. From assumption into action. From thought into conspiracy. And they had done it clearly. Openly. On record. I reached for my phone. Dialed a number I had saved days ago. Prepared. Waiting. This is David Carter, I said calmly when the line connected. A pause. Then a voice answered. Yes, Mr. Carter. I looked back at the screen. At Logan. Kylie. At my house. Still full of people who believed they had one. I think it's time, I said. Silence. Then, understood. I ended the call, closed the laptop, and stood up, because the waiting part was over. Now, it was time to go home. The drive back felt shorter than it should have. Not because of speed, because of clarity. There's something dangerous about a man who has nothing left to question. No doubt, no hesitation, just a straight line between decision and action. That's where I was. I didn't rush, didn't speed, didn't call ahead. Everything that needed to be said had already been recorded. Everything that needed to be proven was already secured. By the time I turned onto my street, it was quiet. Too quiet. No music. No crowd. No noise spilling out of the house like the nights before. Just stillness. That told me enough. They weren't celebrating anymore. They were settling in. And people are most vulnerable when they think the transition is complete. I parked across the street. Engine off. Hands resting on the wheel. For a moment, I just looked at the house. My house. Lights on in the living room. Shadows moving inside. Familiar and completely foreign at the same time. Then the second car pulled up behind me. Unmarked. Expected. Right on time. 2 officers stepped out. Calm. Professional. Not curious. They didn't need curiosity. They had context. I stepped out of my car. Met them halfway. "Mr. Carter?" one of them asked. I nodded. "That's me. You said you have evidence of unlawful activity inside the residence." "I do." I didn't elaborate. Didn't need to. I handed over the drive. Everything. Video. Audio. Logs. Attempts. Conversations. Intent. They didn't react. Didn't comment. Just took it. That's the thing about real consequences. They don't come with drama. They come with procedure. "We'll go in with you," the officer said. I nodded again. And just like that, we walked toward the house. No hesitation. No build-up. Just footsteps on concrete. Each one heavier than the last. Not because I was unsure. Because I knew exactly what waited on the other side of that door. And what was about to end. I reached the front step. Paused. Not out of emotion. Out of recognition. This was the last moment before everything changed. Then I knocked. Firm. Controlled. Once. Silence inside. Then movement. Footsteps. Muffled voices. Logan's voice. Faint. "Who is that?" Another step closer. Then the door opened. And there he was. Standing in the frame like nothing had changed. Like he still owned the ground beneath his feet. Like I was still gone. For a second, he didn't understand what he was looking at. Then it hit him. His face changed. Not slowly. Instantly. Shock first. Then confusion. Then something deeper. Fear. "You!" He didn't finish. Couldn't. Because that's when he saw the officers behind me. And everything collapsed at once. "What's going on?" Kylie's voice came from inside. Then she appeared. Stepped into view. Saw me. Saw them. And unlike Logan, she understood immediately. Her eyes didn't widen. They sharpened. Calculated. Fast. Too fast. She tried to recover. Tried to speak. But the officer stepped forward. "Ma'am, we're going to need you to step aside." That's when Logan snapped. "What is this? You can't just come in here." "I can," I said. Quiet. Flat. Final. "This is my house." The words landed harder than anything else that night. Because for the first time, he had no argument. No leverage. No illusion to hide behind. The officers moved in. Professional. Efficient. No wasted motion. No raised voices. Just control. Kylie stepped back. Not resisting. Thinking. Always thinking. Logan didn't move at first. Like if he stood still long enough, reality might reverse. Didn't. One officer addressed him directly. "We need both of you to remain here while we review some information." "What information?" Logan snapped. I stepped past him. Into the house. Slow. Measured. Familiar. Every step echoing in a space that had rejected me days ago. Now it felt different. Not warmer. Not welcoming. Just restored. "This," I said, setting my phone down on the table and pulling up the recordings, "is the information." The room went quiet. Dead quiet. I hit play. Their voices filled the space. Clear. Undeniable. Plans. Attempts. Intentions. Every word they thought was private. Now standing in the center of the room like a witness. Logan's face drained. Kylie didn't move. Didn't react. But I saw it. That moment. That fracture behind her eyes where calculation met reality. And lost. "This isn't," Logan started. "It is," I cut in. Calm. Controlled. "It's all of it." I looked at him. Really looked. No anger left. No emotion. Just truth. "You didn't just try to push me out," I said. "You tried to take everything." Silence. Heavy. Final. The officer stepped forward again. "We're going to need you both to come with us." That's when Logan broke. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a shift. Collapse inward. "You can't do this," he said, quieter now. Not to the officer. To me. Like I still had a choice in it. Like I still owed him something. I held his gaze. Unmoved. "You already did this," I said. And that was it. No more arguments. No more denial. Just consequence. They were escorted out. One step at a time. Through the same door they had closed behind me. But this time, it wasn't control. It was removal. Kylie stayed silent the entire way. Logan looked back once. Just once. Not angry. Not defiant. Just lost. Then they were gone. The door closed again. But this time, I was on the right side of it. The house was quiet. Completely. No music. No voices. No toujours presence pretending to belong. Just stillness. I walked through each room slowly. Not inspecting. Not checking. Just reclaiming. The couch. The hallway. My office. Nothing broken. Nothing stolen. Because they never got that far. They thought they were close. They thought they had time. They thought I was gone. That was their mistake. I stood in the center of the living room. Looked around. And for the first time since my wife died, I didn't feel like I was holding something together. I felt like I had protected it. At the cost of everything else. And maybe that's the truth no one wants to admit. Sometimes, the only way to see people clearly is to step back and let them act without you. So now I ask you, when someone tries to erase you from your own life, do you fight them? Or do you let them believe they've already won? Until the moment they realize they never had anything at all? The silence after they left wasn't relief. It was exposure. For the first time in years, nothing in that house was pretending anymore. No forced conversations. No measured words. No quiet disrespect wrapped in routine. Just truth. And it echoed. I didn't sit down right away. Didn't turn on the lights. I just stood there in the middle of the living room, staring at the space they had tried to take from me. Not violently, not loudly, but deliberately. That's what stayed with me. Not the betrayal. The patience behind it. Because betrayal done in anger is messy. This wasn't. This was planned. Calculated. Built slowly while I was still inside the walls. I walked into the kitchen. Opened the fridge. Food gone. Not eaten, consumed. Carelessly. Leftovers half-finished. Containers open. Bottles misplaced. Small things. But they tell the truth. People who respect a place maintain it. People who think they own it use it. I closed the fridge. Moved on. The hallway felt longer than I remembered. Every step carried something with it. A memory, a moment, a version of Logan that no longer existed. A kid asking for help with homework. A teenager slamming doors. A young man looking at me like I was already gone. I stopped outside his room. The door was open. Of course it was. I stepped inside. Clothes everywhere. Not organized chaos. Neglect. Drawers pulled out and left that way. Closet half emptied. Like he had already started imagining a different life. One where this place was just a resource, not a home. On the desk there were papers. My papers. Printed copies. Highlighted sections. Notes in the margins. Not random. Studied. I picked one up. Property details. Ownership structure. Legal language circled. Questions written beside it. How to transfer? What if owner leaves? Access without permission? I stared at it for a long time. Not surprised. Just confirmed. Because now there was no room left for doubt. He hadn't just followed Kylie. He had participated. Learned. Agreed. I set the paper back down exactly where I found it. Nothing needed to be moved anymore. Nothing needed to be hidden. The truth had already done its job. I moved to my office. This room was different. Cleaner. More controlled. But still touched. Subtly. Chair slightly adjusted. Keyboard moved a few centimeters off-center. Drawers opened and closed just enough to leave traces. I sat down. Turned on the monitor. Everything exactly as I left it. Because what mattered was never here. They had been searching for something that didn't exist anymore. And in doing that, they exposed everything that did. I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes for a moment, and for the first time since all of this started, I let myself feel it. Not anger, that was gone. Not grief, that had already passed. Something else, something quieter. Disappointment, not in what they did, in how predictable it was. Because that's the truth no one wants to say out loud. People don't change under pressure. They reveal. Give them time. Give them access. Give them the illusion of control, and they will show you exactly who they are. Logan showed me, Kylie showed me, and I let them. That was the hardest part to accept. I didn't stop it early. I didn't confront it when I first saw the signs. I let it grow, because I needed certainty, and certainty comes at a cost. Sometimes, that cost is watching someone you once cared about become a stranger in front of you. I stood up, walked back into the living room, sat down on the couch, the same couch they laughed on, the same place they made plans about selling my life like it was already theirs. And I thought about Logan, not the man he became, the boy he was, because that's the part people always ask about. What happened to him? Like there's a clean answer, like there's a moment where everything breaks. There isn't. It's gradual, a shift in respect, a change in influence, a silence that gets filled by the wrong voice. And then one day, the line is crossed, and everything before it stops mattering. Days passed, then a week. No calls at first. That didn't surprise me. People like Logan don't process consequences immediately. They resist them, deny them, blame something else. But eventually reality settles. And when it does, it's heavy. The first call came late, past midnight, unknown number. I answered, didn't speak, just listened, breathing on the other end, uneven. Then, David, Logan. His voice was different, not confident, not sharp, stripped. Yeah, I said. Silence. Then, I didn't think you'd actually do it. Of course he didn't. That was the entire point. You didn't think I'd protect myself? I asked. No, he stopped. I thought you'd talk first. Talk, explain, warn. Like I owed him a second chance to correct something he had already committed to. You had plenty of time to talk, I said. You chose not to. Another silence. Longer this time. Then, Kylie said. I cut him off. I don't care what Kylie said. That ended it right there. Because for the first time, he had no one to stand behind. No one to defer to. Just himself. And the consequences of his own decisions. I messed up, he said finally. Simple. Late. True. But truth, after action, doesn't undo anything. I know, I replied. He waited. For something else. Forgiveness. Reversal. A way back in. There wasn't one. You don't get to come back from this, I said. Quiet. Not harsh. Just final. You didn't just disrespect me. You tried to remove me. Completely. I didn't think. I know, I said again. That's the problem. Silence. Then the line went dead. No goodbye. No argument. Nothing left to say. I put the phone down. Looked around the house again. Still mine. Still standing. But different. Because once trust breaks like that, even if everything else stays, something fundamental is gone. And it doesn't come back. That's the lesson. Not about money. Not about ownership. About boundaries. About what happens when you let people stay in your life after they've already shown you they don't respect your place in it. I walked to the front door, opened it, stepped outside. The air felt different, cleaner. Or maybe I just noticed it now. I turned back, looked at the house one more time, and asked myself the only question that actually matters in the end. When someone decides you don't belong in your own life, do you fight to stay? Or do you step aside and let them prove exactly why they never deserved a place in it to begin with? So tell me, was I wrong to let it go that far, just to see the truth clearly?